Hopefully, this Sunday, we're going to be doing a live stream collaboration with Ben Lawrence and Jose Castron. We're going to be talking about the relocation prophecy model. In lieu of this, you have to understand that the relocation prophecy model is an extension of historic premillennialism, which is the plain reading of the text. That's why I've also always called this the plain reading prophecy model. You can just plainly read it, and that's what it means. So it's imperative that everybody realizes that this answers all the concerns for the Christians who are alive and remain at the return of Christ. Because the only way that, up until now, people have had an answer as to how we're going to get through all the way to the end of the tribulation to the return of Christ, because the rapture is at the return of Christ, which is at the end of the tribulation, which is after the Battle of Armageddon. It is before the literal millennial reign of Christ. Up until now, we've only had this flight of fancy that says we're going to be raptured to heaven. That is completely unbiblical in every way, shape, and form. It follows the model that happened in the flood. Noah and the 8 people were not raptured to heaven, they were put in a secure location. It is this that Revelation chapter 7, verses 9 through 17, plainly describe. When you realize what you're actually talking about is the return of the pillar of the presence, the end time suddenly makes sense. Take note. This is why Nehemiah chapter 9 is there. If you read that, you understand that this is what is being talked about in Revelation chapter 12. After we're taken to this place in the wilderness, the devil issues a flood from his mouth. This is a mimic of Korah's rebellion. It is a mimic of Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 17, this leader that was elected. So, no one understand this. Once you realize that that's what we're looking at, that's what Revelation chapter 7 is about. That's what it's describing. That this is why the Greek there says that he who sitteth upon the throne stretches his tabernacle over us. When you realize that's what's going on, it is return to the pillar of the presence, everything makes sense. This is how 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, explicitly verse 23, makes sense. That's how it makes sense. Under this pillar of the presence, things will be different for us. For one, it's going to be the only habitable zone on this planet, as Revelation chapter 9, verse 6 plainly states that those who are in the outer darkness, death flees from them. They quite simply cannot die, as God has trashed, well, our habitable zone has been terraformed. So once you realize this dynamic, once you realize that there is going to be a rebellion in this wilderness before the return of Christ, once you realize this overlays with all the prophets, both major and the 12 prophets, it makes the Bible make sense. All of a sudden, everything comes alive. Literally, all the prophetic narrative will jump out off the page to you. Take note. It's imperative that you realize that really what you're seeing in Numbers chapter 11 is a prophetic overlay of what happens in Revelation chapter 7. The 70 elders that are appointed there mimics Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 through 8. That's what it does. And take note, when it prophetically mentions to you that there were 2 that were not present at the Ohel Moed there, that is the tent of the meeting, there were two that were not there. There were two that are not there. Look and read that text. You understand that when you add those two to the 70, 144,000 is perfectly divided by 72. How many times? Look it up on a calculator. Once you start to realize these dynamics, it can open up the scriptures for you, that you can read it and understand it and realize there's only one way that you could possibly get from the great day of the Lord to the return of Christ. There's only one way you're naturally going to do that, and that's with supernatural intervention. The supernatural circumstances that naturally occurred in the presence of that pillar of the presence. It was a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. It was in the shadow of this pillar of the presence that their clothes did not wear out. Their sandals did not wear out for 40 years. That's impossible. That's how you're going to get from point A, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. What's point A? The great day of the Lord. Of course, it hasn't happened yet. The great day of the Lord, the sixth seal, starts the tribulation. That's where it starts. The first 5 seals are the birth pains. That's what Jesus was talking about. So the first 5 seals are the birth pains. The 6th seal is the tribulation trigger. You're going to get from there to the return of Christ, because the God of peace, please look that up in the Greek. That phrase is more than one time in the New Testament. The God of peace will entirely sanctify not just your psyche this time, not just your spirit. It says there that he sanctifies your body, your spirit, and your mind to the return of Christ. This is how end-time Bible prophecy makes sense. This is how it's always made sense. So when you look at the plain timeline for the historic pre-millennial timeline, everything lines up perfectly. But where you see the Great Tribulation, while that's going on, you are at the great gathering in the shadow of this pillar of the presence. This pillar of the presence. This pillar was a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Once you realize that, you can start to absorb the Old Testament in appropriate fashion and realize this is why there is no reference to us ever being raptured to heaven. We never leave the planet. The Lord Jesus Christ comes to us. But this answers all the concerns as to how we're going to survive for that 1,260-day tribulation. This answers all the concerns, and it always has. It always has. Get excited. Look into these things. Just consider what I'm saying. Just consider it. Do yourself a favor. Read Numbers 11 and then read Revelation chapter 7, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The 70 elders and the other 2 that prophesied outside the camp, they represent the 144,000. Yes, they do. Take note. What happened there was at the external Ohel Moed. There were 2 Ohel Moeds. There was the one in the center of the camp that was, of course, what you call the tabernacle. But this second one, 3 separate events occurred at this secondary Ohel Moed. The second tabernacle. This is where dual tabernacle eschatology comes from. So, I've gone on long enough, I think, for this live video. Take note, we're going to do a collaboration this Sunday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Till next time, God bless. Godspeed.